My name is Nikita. I'm just wondering, what was the reason you went to Robert Land Academy?
Why did I go to Robert Land? That's a really good, that's a good story. I was really young, and Robert Land is not the Robert Land that you're at it right now. I went to Robert Land in its third year. There were only 64 students. Again, as I shared with you, we did not have permanent buildings. We did not have running water. We did not have flush toilets. They had the truck in the water. Um, Bruce Ness, who is your chef, he's made food so much better because the individuals, she was, a wonderful woman. However, she did not put spice in food or anything like that. So I was told that she was feeding us on like 65 cents a day. I don't know if that's true, but it's a good urban legend because it was an experience. So what happened was I had difficulties in school, and I needed a structured environment, and I also needed an environment that was going to build me up, because my self-esteem in grade 5 was completely demoralized. Like I was put into a class, and this is, I guess, 1979. I had a learning disability, and I was put in a class where the kids' disabilities were different than myself, and I had a lot of frustration. I acted out. Just to put in perspective, the principal told my parents and the person who was in charge of their district that he would take money out of his budget to have me go to another school. Now, considering how, limited funding is for public schools, that's a big deal. My parents at that point made a lot of sacrifices, and they had actually said to themselves that they wanted me to have a life. And at that point, they had found Robert Land Academy, which was a very, very new school, because the school now is over 40 years. It was something brand new. And it had a military theme, and it had structure. And I'll tell you what it did for me. It gave me structure. It allowed me to develop friendships and have relationships with people and build up my self-esteem, which was so key. And it gave me the opportunity to find my own learning style to become, I'm very academic now. And I don't believe I would have found that if I had not had Robert Land part of my journey. So again, as I said earlier on, is that Robert Land is just part of my story, like it is part of your story. You will meet people after you leave who've gone to Robert Land, and you will have a connection that you will have with no one else, because they will not have had that same experience. And you guys, when you're my age, you'll know how precious that is.
I had a question. In the start of the book, there was this competition between two lumberjacks. And
Yes.
in the competition, one of them were like blading his axe, and one of them were not. And one of them was continuing to cut the trees. But
Yes.
at the end of the race, the one who was blading the axe won the competition. I was curious about it. What was so significant about that competition, that the message that we need to take about it?
Oh, that's a very good one. The reason why I put that story there, because you were going to take time to read the book. And it's the downtime. It's not just going. For example, if you keep on working towards something, you never take a break to go and look at what you're doing. You could be doing the wrong thing. You could be missing some really great insights to what's important in your life and where you want to go. A lot of people, they will just, find themselves somewhere, and they'll just keep on working, and they think, hey, that's going to get me ahead. But this is why I was sharing with you earlier on, that it's the down times, it's the times that our lives blow up, that we think are going to blow up, because every time when you get older and something blows up, you find out that you're still there and you're still enjoying your life and you still have a life. So what the point I was making with the two lumberjacks, I just want to go and for those of you who forgot about the story, I want to share it with you right now because I think that would be helpful. There's Pierre and there's Nicholas. These are the two greatest lumberjacks, but no one knows who the greatest person is, who the greatest lumberjack is. So one day a promoter decides that they're going to have a competition. And the competition they're going to have is to see over a 7-hour period who chops down the most trees. And at the end of that period, the gun is going to go off and they're going to determine, after counting each and every tree, who cut down the most and crown that person the world's greatest lumberjack. So the day of the event, the gun goes off, they start chopping, chopping, chopping. And 50 minutes in, Pierre hears in the distance that Nicholas has stopped chopping. And he keeps on chopping because he says, hey, I'm not going to stop. And after 10 minutes, when the hour begins, Nicholas starts chopping again. And this goes on every 50 minutes, every 50 minutes in, Nicholas stops chopping. So at the end of the race or the competition, the gun goes off and the judges count, and Pierre thinks, I'm going to win because I chopped for 7 hours straight, and by doing my calculation, I chopped an hour extra than Nicholas. And they do the competition, it's over, they do the count, and the winner is Nicholas. Peter's like dumbfounded. Pierre doesn't understand how this could have happened. And the reason he doesn't know how it could happen because he chopped an extra hour. So he says, I'm going to go and confront Nicholas, and I'm going to go and tell him that it's impossible. He couldn't have done it because I chopped for an extra hour. He goes to Nicholas and he goes and says that there's no way you could have won. You stopped chopping for at least an hour during the entire competition. I chopped an hour more than you. This couldn't happen. And Nicholas turns to Pierre and he says, I never stopped chopping. I was sharpening my blade. What does that mean? When you guys have downtime, that's not real downtime because you're not dead. That means that's a time for you to actually reflect on what you've done, what you enjoy, what you've learned. And then when you go and step up to the next challenge that you have in your life, you're able to take that with you. And I find, and people have found, people who take that time off, they're able to go and make big changes in their lives. But it's those people who've never taken that time to reflect, to go within and ask themselves those bigger questions, where they want to go, who are they, what are they prepared to do to achieve those goals, what have they learned, where do they want to avoid going again. Those are the people who keep on doing what they're doing. And you know, insanity, according to Albert Einstein, is doing the same thing again and again and thinking you're going to have a different outcome. And that's the purpose of the story of the two lumberjacks, is just because you're in movement doesn't mean you're being productive. So quantity and quality are two different things. You could do little, but actually have power or purpose and create a lot. Or you can have a lot and end up doing nothing. So I hope that answers your question.
Afternoon, sir. I just had a quick question in regards to when the main character
Yes.
stops his meetings with the mentor and he kind of goes off and finds his independence throughout his own life. What exactly in that story does that mean or represent in your life, sir?
Well, that's a really good question. And I've reflected on it. And I think when we're young, we're really cocky. We're very cocky. And sometimes we think we know everything. Right now, you're looking at me and you're looking at your lieutenant colonel and you're looking at your teachers and your parents. And you're saying, well, the world is different now. They don't know how it is. I'm going to go out and do it my way. This is the way it is. You're the first person to discover it. And sometimes a mature person not sometimes, will step back, and they understand that you need to do that because you have to find your own way. And this is going to happen in your life. And for me, I put that in because I've had regret in my life because my ego has got in the way for me to really being able to, enjoy the lessons that people are actually giving me. So what that meant to me when I wrote it, I said, sometimes we're cocky. And sometimes we just feel we have to do it ourselves. But there's a second message, because that happens to be the message for you at your age, that you might find someone that you really like and you get along with, and this person you have very special relationships with, and then boom, you guys get into a fight. How many of you have had like a best friend that you stop talking to, you got into a fight, you just have ill feelings towards them? Who has that? Come on, we're all human, right? We've all had that. It's like this was the best person in the world, and now we have nothing to do with them, and we just can't even believe we were friends with them or had anything to do with them. And this happens, and when we're young, that's hubris. That's a word that's used for arrogance. And for me, what that meant was the young person has to do it because that's how they learn. And a lot of learning comes from having regret, the things that we didn't do or the things we did. But it was also a message for someone older, such as myself, that I can't let my arrogance come in and say, I'm going to teach you a lesson, young man. I'm going to go and put you straight. Because I have the ability to really teach you a lesson. I have more resources, more experiences, and I can make your life terrible if I chose to. But a mature man, and this is what each and one of you are going to grow into, because you're a Robert Land Academy cadet, is someone who basically says, it's not about me. No one ever does anything to me that I don't do to myself. And they're going to step back and they're going to look at it. Now, there's a gentleman who I went to Robert Land with, and let me share with you how he's matured. He really bought in to, I'm going to report people and I've got to follow these rules. And he wanted to be headmaster at one point, and he was a head boy. And for a lot of the kids who went there, they weren't so happy with him. So when we started having reunions, life had taught him a lot of lessons. And he came to these reunions and he apologized for being, I'm going to say it, an asshole. He apologized. He understood, because he had life experiences. So as a young man, you're going to go out and you're going to get angry at people and you're not going to talk to them. And it's going to be over things that that aren't important when you're older, and you're going to wonder about it. And a mature person will take that in perspective and not go and take it personal. And most importantly, when that happens in your life, the one thing that you have to remember is these people who it might happen to in your life, you have something that's so special. And this is what I have with my friends from Robert Land. Some of them I wasn't friends with when I was at Robert Land. We had a shared experience. And that's really the beautiful thing. And the message I have at the epilogue chapter is when Michael is celebrating his 60th anniversary with his wife. I once read what the real value of a relationship is with someone, and that's having someone who's experienced your life with you, been a mirror to you. So when you guys get older and you're reminiscing about the experiences you had at Robert Land and this old guy being on a camera speaking to you, the gentleman in the room next to you, they had that same experience, and that's where the real value in your friendship's going to come out of. So that's what the message was. You're young, you're cocky, and you're supposed to be it. But at the same time, you're going to mature into a place where, you're going to realize that, unless someone's done something really outrageous, you have to find forgiveness in your heart. And you also have to you'll develop the maturity where you will be able to step back and you won't take it personally. And that's the problem. We usually get in our own way and we take things personally. Because you also have to remember, each and every one of you are also on your own life journey. And nothing's personal. Someone you think's got it together, they might think you have it together. When I see something in someone I really like, it's because I'm actually discovering something in myself that I like. And if I see someone doing something that bothers me, really what it is, it's me seeing an aspect of myself in that other person. I'll give you a perfect example. I remember a friend in university. He always admires people's hairlines. I don't have hair. I'm bald. Like I shave my head. I'm not like a horseshoe, but I'm definitely not thick like I was when I was a kid. And he used to always notice and comment on people's hair. Oh, you have a good hair and you have like a thick line of hair, your hair is thinning. That wasn't my issue. I never cared about that. It was his issue. So things that you see in other people that bother you, you have to turn it around and you have to say that what about that person that bothers me about me? And that's where the learning experience is. And that was the purpose of that chapter, because when I was writing it, I was thinking about what a mature person would do. An immature person would say, you know, that kid Michael, I give him all this time, I'm going to teach him a lesson. And that's ego. And ego kills deals. Ego kills life. Ego kills relationships. Ego kills spirit. And ego only grows one thing: despair.
Peter, thanks very much for that. A great answer to that question. Do you want to spend a minute or two just with some final thoughts here for the boys?
I will. Thank you so much. So these are my final thoughts, and I want to share with you. One of my favorite quotes is from Theodore Roosevelt, who was the president of the United States. And he calls it the man in the arena. And the reason I like that quote, because you can be a spectator to life. You can get into the arena. You're not going to win all the time. You're not going to be the hero all the time. However, you're in the arena. This is your life. You get one of it. And falling and making success, they're all part of life. I remember reading years ago, and I now can appreciate this more and more, is they went to these people who were 80 years old and they asked them what they regretted about their lives. They asked what they regretted about their lives. And they all said, the things I didn't do, not the things they did do, because the worst thing is regret. So I'm going to suggest to all of you is find that special thing that's important to you, that gift you have, and get in the arena. And it's going to be bloody, and you're going to learn. However, you're always going to have this experience that you were a Robert Landon Academy cadet. You had experiences that you're able to build on your successes and your failures, and you're going to go out and you're going to make yourself proud. Forget about your parents, forget about the academy, forget about everybody else. That's great if they're proud of you. But most importantly, you have to be proud of yourself. And that's the one thing that I've learned. And the reason I wrote the book, and I want to leave this with you, is it was really important. I wanted to go and leave a legacy. I shared with you about that gentleman who was worth several $1 billion. He built about 27,000 condos. And no one's going to know who built those buildings. No one's going to know that who this person was, because just as you're sitting in the dining hall, you don't know who built the dining hall. But I'll tell you one thing. You guys are staring at those uniforms right now that belong to Robert Land Academy. And long after Robert Land Academy was dead, his story inspired Scott Bowman, the first headmaster and the founder of Robert Land, to go and create a school that has touched the lives of thousands of boys across the globe. So what I'm going to leave with you, and which I thought was really important. And this goes back to the question that was asked about the breakup with Harold. I talk about the 6 life questions, and I want to leave this with you because this is something which is important. When you were a kid, it was an identity question. Who were you? I'm a boy, I'm a brother, I'm a son, and I belong to this religion. And right now at your age, it's how you fit in, what people are thinking about you. It's a very insecure age. You guys are going through, I'm glad I went through puberty. I'm glad it's over for me. And then when you're in 20, you're going to try to figure out what you're going to do, what your profession's going to be. And in your 40s, the next question is going to be like, who have you become? And then when you hit my age, it's going to be what you've accomplished. And the last question, and this is what I want to leave with you before we go, is the legacy question. What are you going to do that's going to impact people in a positive way when they think of you? They're going to feel great love towards you. They're going to have a smile towards you. And you've actually made the world better than you found it. And the people who ask the last question the earliest are the ones who leave the greatest impact. And I'll leave this with you. As I mentioned earlier on, that there's a disproportionate of boys who've done heroic acts over the last 40 years of the school, where they've run into burning buildings and saved children, where they've actually pulled people out of burning cars, or where they've actually saved people on unconscious. And this has happened again and again. Now, I don't know what these boys did afterwards, but I got to tell you something. What they did for those people and saving them, they felt a greater need to participate in society, to be in society. And basically, they made a difference for those people. And it doesn't have to be 1,000 people. It doesn't have to be 1,000,000 people. It doesn't have to be 10,000, 7 billion people. But you can make a difference. And it starts by making a difference in your life. And for me, writing that book, I'm hoping in my small way, I made a difference with you. And this has been a great afternoon. I want to thank you.
So good afternoon, sir. I'm the head boy of Robertland Academy, Sergeant Yao En. On the behalf of C Company, we want to admire and congratulations on your success. Also, we really appreciate it and thankful that you have a nice speech with us. We hope that we can absorb and utilize the knowledge we learned today for our future success. So at the end, thank you for your time, sir, and have a good day, sir.
You too. Thank you very much.